Hey, I'm Adam Thompson. I'm a consultant in strategy and organisational design, and today it's episode 3 of Work Models You Need to Know. The work model is Positive Politics, and it's by Peter Block. Let's get into it. You can find more about this piece of work in Peter Block's brilliant book. It's one of the classics. It's called The Empowered Manager. Now, politics. When most people think politics, you're thinking something like this.
The answer is might, because I want to do you slowly.
Or perhaps something like this.
You're not saying anything, Tony.
But the origin of the word comes from politikos, which means citizen and city. In an organisation, we're talking about a citizen of the organisation. So what this means is the moment you try to change something in an organisation, it's a political act. So what Peter sets up is a classic consultant's 4-box model. It looks like this. As you can see, we've got two axes as per usual. We've got agreement over here, we've got high agreement and low agreement, and along here we've got the level of trust in terms of low and high. These are the two things that are playing into any relationship you've got at work. So classic 4-box model, we've got 4 situations here and we've actually got a fifth. If we've got high trust and high agreement, we are in a situation where we are allies. If we're in a situation where we have high trust but low agreement, we're in a situation where we are opponents. If we have low agreement and low trust, we are adversaries. And where we have high agreement but we have low trust, we are bedfellows. The fifth one is a situation where we don't know whether they agree with us or not, so you are a fence sitter. And what you can do straight away already is you can take all the people that you have to deal with and you can straight away start to plot where they might be. But there's a few nuances. Let's talk the straightforward ones first, allies. Now the job with allies is to get closer.
You know what we should get? You know those hearts that break up and it's like best friends? We should get like a three-way one of those.
You already get along, you already agree, so make sure you have conversations where you affirm your agreement and then reinforce the relationship. And this gives you the opportunity where you talk about the things that are worrying you, the issues that you're having perhaps with people over here on the low trust side. Treat people who are allies as part of your inner circle, regardless of where they are in the organisation. The play with opponents is somewhat similar but slightly different in that the job is to value them. Make sure that they know that you appreciate the fact that there's trust between the two of you, that you're able to get along, and that you value the difference of opinion. Peter Block gives us the analogy of tennis. Think about Rafael Nadal versus Roger Federer.
But, sorry, tell me again, how do I start?
They have low agreement in terms of who should be the winner of the match, but they trust each other. Let me give you a definition of trust that you can go with right now. It's the one that I like to use. You can trust someone if you know that nothing will happen to you because of them that you didn't know about already. It's a very utilitarian definition of trust, but I find it to be quite effective. Now, let's get on to a couple of the more entertaining ones over on the right side. Bedfellows are people in the organisation where you do have agreement with, but if every time you go to talk to them you feel a need to be a bit strategic, to be a bit careful, to not put everything on the table, then what you're dealing with is a bedfellow, because the reason you're doing all that sort of stuff is that you don't have complete trust.
I don't want to work with you.
Hey, don't.
Ain't got no choice. Looks like we both the fucked.
The way I describe Peter Block's strategy is I call it golden rule. Treat others as you want to be treated yourself. Think about how you would like them to approach you. Talk about, this is how the relationship goes for me, how does it go for you, and what's a better way that we can build this relationship as the project goes on. The strategy for fence sitters is, we need to bring them out.
Smoke them out of their holes. We're going to smoke them out. Smoke them out and smoke him out of his cave.
Bring them out, however, without cutting them off. The nature of the fence sitter is to not make decisions, to be able to feel which way the wind is blowing, to make sure that they're always going to be okay. So by asking them where they stand, you might be able to get an answer, but the next question you can ask them is to think about it for a little while and to get back to you with what they would need to be able to support you. At least that helps to gently push them towards one direction or the other. Now, the one you've probably been waiting for is, how do we deal with adversaries?
All these rules.
The strategy here is reduce and let go. You are rarely going to influence an adversary, and why is that? Because here, you don't trust them, they don't trust you. So if you think you've got some sort of ability to magically come in and make them make a difference,
Telling me's dreaming.
because you're only going to change your mind from people who you trust. So a much more sensible strategy is to look at reducing the tension in the relationship, reducing the impact they have on your plans. So how do you go about doing this? Well, we have a conversation where we talk about what our intentions are and we listen to what their intentions are and make sure at least that they can feel understood, that you get where they're coming from. If you want to push it to the next level, you then talk about how you've been part of the problem. There's going to be actions that you've done which have helped to reduce the trust in the relationship. You can own those actions, you can put them out loud, not to get them to confess or anything like that, but just to make sure that you're putting it on the table. And then what we need to do is employ the aspects of trust that I spoke about earlier. If you do have plans to put something forward that's not going to be supported by them, then let them know what your plans are.
Once I take out the leader, which is you, I'll have to contend with one or two enthusiastic wingmen.
Who you're going to meet with, when, about what, so they have full awareness of what's going on. If you want to go next level, invite them to that exact meeting yourself. Then what we need to do is, once we've had a crack at this, we need to let it go. We need to let go of the fact that you are ever going to have a trusting relationship with that person. It's not going to happen. Adversaries expose the darker side in us, the part that we're somewhat envious of, that we wish we could do ourselves, and that's why we obsess about them, we have a lot of conversations with other people about them, and we can't get them out of our head, even though they can only take up sometimes 10 to 20% of our actual work. So, what's the goal with all this? We spend our energy with our allies and our opponents. We need to make sure that we're developing our relationships with our allies, treating them like part of our inner circle, explaining to them what's really going on for us, and talking to them about themselves. And with opponents, we need to know that we value the fact that they are opponents. Spend a bit of time with bedfellows to discuss the relationship and see what you can do to move it a bit more from a relationship of low trust to high trust. A bit of time. A little bit of time with fence sitters, look at that as on the way through. See what you can do to maybe move them in one direction or the other. But remember, fundamentally, they're not going to make a decision, so they're going to be careful. So don't spend too much energy with fence sitters. With adversaries, have one meeting to talk about your part in the relationship and at least let them know that they're understood. And from there, let it go. Always play the game fairly. Don't be manipulative and work around them yourself, but play the game the way you want to play. It's up to you whether you pretend that there's no such thing as politics going on at your work, or instead, remember, politics comes from being a citizen of a city or from being a citizen of an organisation. The question for you is not whether you are political, but whether you are political in a way that's positive in the interest of the organisation or negative. That's the real choice, and a model such as Peter Block's positive politics model can give you a way to go about it, which ultimately helps for the greater good. That's all for now. If you've got any further questions about this, please feel free to message me on any of the usual socials. Otherwise, you can sign up to my blog, which gives you this video straight to your inbox, as well as an article that goes along with it every week. Otherwise, I'll see you next time. Wow, listen to that rain.